authority and courage, and I'm excited to share with you the wonderful stories that they're going to bring. And we're going to talk a lot about harnessing the courage within. Can you all say harness?
Harness.
That means to gain control. That means sometimes it's running a little rampant and we need to gather it and collect it and bring it closer. We're going to harness our courage, and so we're going to have a really real conversation. How many of you all have seen panels and you're like, okay, they're talking about the same stuff all the time. We know we can do it. We're encouraged. Head nods. How many of y'all have been encouraged and motivated enough? Yes? Well, if you don't know, I like to be disruptive.
Yes.
And so the panelists have been all informed and prepared with a bit of some questions, and we're going to talk about the real space of winning and leading, working, playing, and living in an incredible way as leaders. And so we're going to jump right in. I'm going to take my seat. Well, ladies, the audience has heard kind of your role. I'm going to just ask you to, if you don't mind, grab mics on the end, and we're going to pass them inward. And if you don't mind, introduce yourself and just give us that one thing that we need to know about you to connect today. So we'll start with Dr. Taria Richmond.
Hello, as you all know, I am Dr. Taria Richmond, and you may, if you follow me on social media, know me as your total health doctor, because I believe that medicine and taking care of my patients includes the mind, body, and spirit. And so one interesting pearl about myself is that I hail from Chicago, Illinois, and I hail actually from the west side of Chicago. And if you know anything about Chicago, it is a very beautiful city, but it also is very heavy in gangs and drugs. And so that is the community that I grew up in. However, I went to Whitney Young High School, which is the same high school that Michelle Obama went to, and Landy as well. What's the likelihood that we will be in this room today and both of us be on the stage today? But Whitney Young changed my life, as well as how Michelle Obama said. And so she's my inspiration because I know the story, because I've lived the story.
I don't know if I can follow that. I don't have that much information. Again, I'm Diane Maven. I'm the Manager of Administrative Services at Amegy Bank. And the one thing I want you to know about me is I am authentically Diane all the time. Just whenever you see me, I'm always Diane Maven. There's nothing more than that.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lizzie Gandy. I'm an offshore installation manager at BP. I guess a little bit for me, for you guys, is I'm the first female that have ever held that role in the Gulf of Mexico. I am the first African-American woman as well. So we got double there. But I manage the largest rig in the Gulf of Mexico. There's over 300 people that I talk to every day, and I'm really happy to be here and share my story and listen to the stories of all the other women here today. So I hope you all really enjoy this.
Lizzie, hold that mic, okay? You've been warned.
Hello everyone, my name is Patrice Hagans. I'm a Senior Director at Huron Consulting. I am a native Houstonian. Quick fact about myself. If I had to describe myself, I would definitely say it's really based upon some of my passions. And ultimately right now, one of my key passions is to continue to drive young, particularly women of color, into the area of STEM. So I do a lot of different work in that particular area, as well as to ensure that we're driving towards success. So for me in particular, I'm on this path in life of bringing out best self, and everyone that works with me, that's really my focal point. So I am so happy to be here with you guys today. I hope you gather and garner a lot from my experience and knowledge.
Oh, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shoshella James, the Vice President of Technology Operations at CenterPoint Energy. Yes, it is a boring utility. It's not anything offshore or anything in medicine or fun like that. And I have a lot of interesting facts, and I have to say just one? Just one?
Just one this time.
All right, well, I'm just going to share with you guys that I'm an amateur body bikini competitor. And so the lady who did the meal prep, you are right on point. You can have whatever you want in moderation and balance. And so she said it all already, but that's a fun thing. But in terms of more serious information, I am all about a pipeline to purposeful leadership. We'll talk about that a little bit more on the panel, but growing women from elementary school through as they transition in life, that is what my purpose is.
So Shishella, you have a colleague in the room. Mimi, wave your hand with your gorgeous self. Yes, Mimi is also, I don't know if you're an amateur, but I know she's a boss when it comes to lifting and the competition space, so, you know, you all should connect.
So I'm connecting because I'm trying to get up to the master's category, but I work too much. So it's a balance, right? The 3 Ps.
Good afternoon, I'm Mia Wright. I'm co-pastor at the Fountain of Praise. I've been blessed to serve with my husband and serve so many people in the city of Houston. One fun fact, I kind of like how Kyra says she's a disruptor, and I see myself in that adjective as well. And the reason being is that when I was younger, I never saw myself in this role as a pastor or a woman in ministry. I always had some level of leadership, some level of influence, but I didn't see myself in this pastoral role. And so because I didn't see myself there, I didn't try to conform, I did try to conform, and it didn't fit me. And so at some point when I wakened up, right, and I said, wait a minute, what am I doing? And I looked at some pictures and I thought, this is just not me. I decided that I would just bring my authentic self to the table. And so I made this big transformation, and people ask me, well, what happened to you? You know, you used to be so traditional. I broke that yoke of traditionality to be who I really am. And so my fun fact is I'm a woman of faith, I live by faith, and I am a daredevil of faith as well.
Yes, yes. And hold that mic, Pastor Mia. So Lizzie, question. What caused you to have the courage to say yes to the position you're in now? And does that role serve your personal mission?
So, the role that I have, you know, it's one of those roles you've never seen a woman in. I was in second command to that role, and I observed a lot of men in that role. And they had a lot of credentials, and, you know, they talk a lot about what they've done. And a lot of the experiences and the things that they shared wasn't anything that I actually had done. But I had a sponsor that actually supported me. When I went to that first role, they asked me, you know, they were really surprised that I actually wanted to do it. The role actually takes you away from your family 14 days at a time, but 14 days on, you know, you're with your family. So that was a big step there. But to think about that next role that made me say yes was primarily that trust that sponsor had in me. I think he had more trust in me that I could do the job than I had in myself. And I had committed to myself that no longer was I gonna say no or make excuses for things. I was just gonna start saying yes. And when you start saying yes, just see what it takes you, where it takes you.
That's good. That's real good. There's so much power in a real yes. And I'm big on saying, say yes and mean it. And that's good. And you must mean it, honey. 14 days on, 14 days off. First black woman to up shore, down shore. Come on. All right, Pastor Mia. Question. Most women are chasing some form of balance while really realizing balance is kind of a myth, right? It's this mythical thing we're chasing. So my question is, have you mastered setting priorities and dealing with the guilt or the aftermath of choosing when you kind of tipped your own scales?
That was a question that really did speak to me very well. Can I just see a show of hands? How many of you trying to balance? Okay, put your hand down. And can I tell you to stop? Stop trying to balance. How many of you have successfully balanced? Ooh, a couple of you say yeah. What I have found is that when I released that word balance out of my life, then I started to realize my harmony. And there's a very big difference. Because balance, you're trying to give equal proportion of time, energy, effort, idea, all of that to each thing that is part of your life. So maybe your different identities, your mother, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a employee, I'm a boss, whichever it is, you're trying to give everything equal amounts of time. And I recognize that I can't do that. I have children, you guys have children, though for those of you who do have children, there are different times in your children's life that they will need you more than they do. And if you have more than one child, there may be one child that is continually far more needy than the other. And if you cannot give that one the time because I gotta give to the other one, you miss out on an opportunity to really make that difference. So the harmony of life, the difference with that is that when you start to realize that things operate together, and you realize that I may spend a little time here, or I may have to take this off my plate for a while, but I've released myself from feeling guilty about it because right now it's not as urgent or as important as this is. I told my assistant this morning, I said, whatever's screaming loudest in front of me that really needs my attention is going to get my attention. And it might not be as urgent as somebody, because it's somebody else's thing sometimes, but it still needs my attention in order to advance it. And so I started to release those guilt feelings of not being able to balance everything, not being able to do everything. I was like you, when I was younger in my professional career, I was traveling every other week while my children were in elementary school. And that's kind of hard for a mother to be gone a full week at a time. But when I released that balance, I knew that when I'm there on the weekend, you're getting all of me. And I'm getting as much of you as I can get. So I stopped trying to put a clock to the things in my life and to see how it all works together and to make those things happen.
That was huge. And yeah, I see a disruptor to your left. I think she has something to add.
But I do want to add that I see the tenure in the room. I see that there's a lot of experience in balancing and making it work and not work. What actually worked for me is being the boss in every situation. Now, what does that really mean, Shishella? It means that I trust other people to do what I need to get done. So that's how I actually achieve my balance. There are so many things that need to get done, but you have to empower the people around you to serve you, help you, support you, so that when you still have to make 1/3 work for everybody, as opposed to 2/3 for one and 1/3 for somebody else, that somebody else around you is empowered. So what does that mean? Is you pouring into them so they're equipped to know what you need. You put some guide rails in place, and it's just not for work, it's working for me at home too. You help other people to help you. That's the next best way, I would say, besides just saying plain out no, I'm not doing it. No is acceptable, but empower other people to help you too.
I'm just gonna tilt this on the heels here, because at the end of the day, we as women, as an expectation that people have on us anyway that's beyond anything. But women of color in particular, I just want to share a quick story with you in terms of my life, because I, as a consultant, spent a lot of time on the road, raised a child on the road, that type of scenario. And my parents, huge advocates of me, huge. But when I did make it to leadership level and that travel began to be a little bit more, I remember having a conversation with my counterpart, and she was saying, oh, well, Trace, no worries. You know, I'll give you the number to the au pair we use. I'll give you the number to the nanny we use. Yeah, there's tons of opportunities there. So I was like, okay, that's cool. When you're at this level and you need support, you go and you get support. I told my mom, and she looked at me like I robbed the bank. She was like, what? No, we don't do that. No, what do you mean? Somebody's gonna watch my grandchild? You're not gonna raise your own child? No, Mom, I'm not saying I'm not gonna raise your child, your grandchild, but this is the level of support that I need from that standpoint to be able to proceed forward. So at the end of the day, I think when we talk about balance and we talk about expectations and those types of scenarios, you're gonna have to identify and place on you your level of self-care. What do you need? Because at the end of the day, you can't give anybody anything that you don't already have. So make sure you understand that at the end of the day, your success may not look like what everybody else has expected it to do.
And that's huge, and I just hold that mic. That's huge because I think one of the things that we do oftentimes is we're aware everyone else's expectations as women, and we put that on our back like it belongs to us, and we get home and we're crying and sad and we're feeling all despondent, but we've done a lot of that to ourselves and attach ourselves to somebody else's expectations. No, let your no be no, just like your yes is a yes, and be solid in it. All right, so Diane, Well, question for you. There's so much power in failure. What is the first thing you do to reset yourself after failure? And typically, how long does it take, be it emotional, financial, professional, whichever journey you want to take us on? But let's talk about failure.
You know, first of all, we are all going to fail. I know that. And the one thing my mother told me when I was very young, that once I've done my very best, no one can ask any more of that, not even me. So once I've done my best, I can then start to reset and start again. I can begin again. Just get up, dust myself off, and start again, because life is a series of missteps. And so you course correct and you move on. Allow yourself to fail. No one here is perfect, and if you think you are, stop, because you're not. We're just not perfect. We're people doing the best we can every day. And I'm okay with that.
And I think that's great. But I'm going to ask you to give us a bit of transparency, if you don't mind.
I do.
Because, and because I'm the moderator, it matters not. So, failure.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you take us on a brief journey of one of those moments where failure really got you and you had to really apply the principles you've just given us?
Yes, I am in the banking business, and many years ago, I was asked to put together a proposal to start the bank's credit card portfolio, and I had a team of people working with me. And it's the 11th hour, and I'm looking at the numbers on a Friday night, and they are so wrong. But we delivered the presentation, but it was so wrong. It was just bad. And the staff member working with me said, why don't I just quit and take the heat? I was like, no one gets to escape the party. So I went home and had a Jack and Coke.
Strong, straight up.
And I had a Jack and Coke, and I went in my study, and I go, hey, did we do our best? We did. We just missed a step. I took another sip, and I got back after it. I went to work. I made phone calls alerting all the people who had those numbers saying, please stop, let's not do anything. And we got it right. But, you know, do our best, yes. Jack and Coke, okay. Next step.
And you lived.
And I'm still here, I'm still standing, and I'm better today than I was then.
And Amergy Bank is great, so it's probably
It wasn't
pleased to have
Amergy
you.
Bank.
Well, that's fine.
But you know, they have benefited from all of that.
Come on.
I wanted to add this. So I'm in school now, and one of our classes, we had to write a failure resume, which was very challenging because you had to take a moment of your life and be extremely transparent about it, but you also had to process it. And so I chose an event that I had in 2008 as my failure point. And it started out by saying, my name is Mia Wright and I'm a failure. In this area, I failed. And as you process through it all, then you conclude by, this is what I learned through this, and this is why I won't fail again in this area in the same manner. And so my moment of transparency, or my place is in 2008, I took my conference, Metamorphosis, from what was sold out at $3,500 to the George R. Brown, and I needed 10,000 people, and I got 7,500. So that $2,500 made a big difference in our budget. And at the end of the conference, I was $100,000 in debt. Hello? $100,000 in debt for a nonprofit that we get our income from events and donations. And can I tell you that I took more than a check and go. I had a little bit more than that.
Judge ye not.
Yes. And I want to say it may have taken me 2 or 3 days to get out of bed. Because I was financially drained, I was emotionally drained, and I was spiritually drained. And the reality of that was that I wanted to quit. And I thought of 1,001 ways that I was going to quit and walk away. And I just quit the conference, quit ministry, quit God, quit my husband, quit my life. band quit for real. But within 1 year, we raised all of that money and paid every single debt that we didn't owe a single person. And we're 10 years later now still hosting events and conferences because I had to process that pain of being failing in that. Now writing it helped me to really put in perspective because I didn't fail personally. I failed to see the bigger picture of it all, the bigger financial picture, and that was my failure. So that won't happen again.
That was major. You all laid it on for us, and I think we walked away with 2 assignments. Number 1, to communicate the error and keep your integrity. And then number 2, acknowledge your failure fully and process it so that you can take ownership, and that's a launch pad into your next. That is not a moment to stay in. Stay in the bed for 3 days, get whatever you need, but get up and realign so that you can reconnect with the power within. You had enough gall, mitigated gall, to dream for 10,000. You failed at 100,000. Dream big, fail big, but you dream big and you win big too. So I won't preach because you're the pastor on the board. Dr. Taria Richmond, you ready?
I love how y'all say my whole name every
Yes,
single time.
doctor. Powerful women need love too. Yes. What are your thoughts on making time? Yes. For those of you that know me, y'all know this is my favorite question. Okay, here we go. Powerful women need love too. What are your thoughts on making time for real love and relationships while executing daily in the full power of you? Are you courageous and bold enough to share?
I am courageous and bold enough to share, and I have a little bit of expertise in love and sex. We said we weren't gonna say that word today, but since I'm an MD, I think I have permission to do so. Okay, because it's healthy. It's a healthy part of life. For me personally, let me just go back a little bit. My mom, she's like, oh, books before, when I was little, books before boys is what she told me. And then when it was time to get married, I was in my last year of medical school, and she said, "You're gonna do that?" Yes, ma'am. Yes, I am. Because I wanted to have a balance. I wanted to have a balance of love and career, I should say. And so I see a lot of my peers who are doctors now doing really, really well, but the one thing that they are missing is love, because we're sometimes so focused on career and being successful and making it happen. Well, my boo, he hung in there, okay, from college, med school, residency, and wherever I went, he went. Okay, and he supported me in that. And I think the first thing is making sure that whoever your boo is that they are in it to win it with you. And when you have that, a lot of it will come along. Now that don't mean that sometimes I don't want to push him off a cliff, but that's my boo. And so I need that balance because it's days, my job is hard, y'all. Like keeping people alive is hard. Like making sure somebody don't die is hard. So when I get home, please give me all the love. And I think one of the things is making time for that. Because we get so caught up in the everyday life trying to, establish balance instead of harmony. But that love is a part of harmony.
Hold on, doctor. That was big. Did y'all bite that? It's balance instead of harmony. So did that summarize? We wanted harmony, right? Harmony.
Harmony.
Yes. I want y'all to chew on that for a moment because we fight and scratch for what we think is the goal. We're gonna talk about success in a second, but harmony, I think, is a resonating term.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please.
So what happens when you're boo-less? Where is the absent when the boo is not there?
Yes.
And what do you do?
Who's loving you?
So one, please find a way to love yourself. Self-love is so important. No one knows you better than you. And two, girlfriends, there's nothing like good girlfriends who will hear you, know that when you need to have a real conversation about what you have, what you don't have, what you wish you had, and what you need. Just let's talk about it, because when you're boo-less, sometimes you just gotta have your hugs and your friends around. But don't forget to love yourself.
Yeah.
Love yourself, whatever that means. If that's a massage or whatever else you do, do that. Because that's important to you.
That's good. Now let's talk the 14 days. 14 days on, 14 days off. On the walk. First fall. Share with us if you don't mind.
So, you know, what is real love? Real love, that job that I went for was something that I really wanted to do because operations was something that I really loved. I actually met my husband in operation. I, like many of you who are married, you allow your husbands to go, right? You let them go and you let them grow. And my husband did a lot of things internationally, and I let him do all of those things while I stayed back and I cared for our families. But there came a time, remember that shift? It came that time when there was something that I wanted to do. And when I broached that to my husband said he didn't want to be the reason why I didn't do what I wanted to do. So he let me go. But one of the reasons why I wanted to do it, we talked about the balance, right? I had a hard time doing that balance. You know, I worked the 9 to 5. I was here all the time, but I was not successful at it. The way I plan and organize my life, I really needed to compartmentalize when I work and when I play and how I lived. I loved my job and I loved my family. Balance for me was giving myself that time to love and get into everything that I want to do professionally. But then when I'm home, I'm home. And he's the boss. You know, I may be the boss out there.
Y'all better catch that. That was a whole word.
For the role that I do, you know, I'm responsible for everything that goes on out in that facility. And that includes emergency response. And when that alarm sounds, I'm on, right? But I tell you what, when I'm at home and that smoke alarm goes off, I said, that's you.
Listen, and I love, Lizzie, thank you for sharing that, because I think the biggest thing that you said for us is that permission, which then translated into support, which is what you all mutually gave each other. And the other thing was, when you're there, you're there. And I have a sign up in my office that says, wherever you are, be all there. And that's real. And that was speaking to me first, and I'm in alignment with you on that. Patricia, you care to share? We're talking about love.
Well,
Oh, yes. Who's loving you, and how are you loving yourself?
Well, I definitely have to say that, particularly having been on the opposite side of divorce from that standpoint, I resonate with really all of the comments that were generally made here as it pertains to ensuring that you make sure that you have the support, because I think that initially in my side of the fence, I think it was a situation where the support was not clear or understood, right? So making sure that you're in a situation where you're in mutual agreement about what's expected. I think people focus on other things like, what does it mean for this person to be gone? Oh, we'll make more money, more of these things will come in. They think about the resource, but not necessarily really what it means to have the loss of that particular person and how does that impact that individual directly. So I think having real conversations about and in being, you know, an agreement, mutual agreement about what's needed, when that person needs to take a seat versus when that other person needs to rise, and when that cycle comes back around again, is absolutely critical from the standpoint. And now as I'm on the opposite side of this and being in, starting a relationship, those are always the forefronts of our conversation. Just so you know, this week I'm going to be here. As a matter of fact, next week I'm going to be out of town. Are you good with that? You want to, make a trip down there, or there's always those types of discussion points that are happening, because at the end of the day, I can be boss lady at work, I can be boss lady at home, but to that point, it's nothing if I come home and there's nothing there but my dog, and then he gets tired of me too. So.
great perspective. Yes, please.
Yeah, I agree with everything these ladies have said, and for me, it's just knowing when to take off my crown. My husband is a go girl kind of guy, and whatever I want to do, go girl. I want to do it, go girl. I have never gotten any pushback from him. He is the reason, and my mother, that's my village. That's you talking about keep your kids. My husband and my family are the reason I have been able to do a lot of what I'm doing in terms of climbing the ladder, because even as a utility, I'm responsible for people's lives too. If the electricity doesn't come on, somebody's breathing machine doesn't work. If the gas flame isn't burning, somebody might freeze to death. You know, it gets cold in Minnesota and other places. So it's serious in a very survival way, and the technology that makes that happen is very stressful. So, boss lady at work, but taking the crown off at home so that we can nurture each other. He pours into me and I pour into him so that we both can be successful.
That's good. And before we hear from Pastor Mia Wright, and then Dr. Richmond is going to bring us up on the rear one more time, and I have a question that I'm going to lead with on you just one moment. So we're going to come to you. But I want you guys to understand the conversation around love is centered around your value system around love. And there's no right or wrong way to get into that space. But the most important thing is that you know you are not to neglect your love center, the center of your heart. That is where love pours from. And if your virtue is not there, it will show us and show up in so many different ways. We understand men don't validate us, women don't validate us. We validate ourselves based on what we understand about who we are. That's our first work. And I just want to reaffirm you all in that, because so many times we start to backpedal and kind of disconnect from who we are, applying that responsibility to someone else to tell us how great and how much they love us. Your love is good, but if I don't love myself, I can't connect to it, right? All right, Pastor.
You preaching my sermon over here, Kyra.
Come on, sis.
Yes, you are. That's exactly what I was going to go down that line, because we have one boo list and a few boos, and I've been married for 30 years. Come on now, wait a minute. I've been married for 30 years.
30 years.
Yeah, that's a long time. And I always say I got married out of middle school. That's not true. But just what Kyra said, if you aren't loving yourself, then the love that you give isn't full or complete. Because if you can't look at yourself in the mirror, if you can't speak to your own self and have a self-care which is loving on you, enjoying yourself, and I don't mean some ego trip, and I don't mean some self-centered, this is me, this is my life, I'm living my best. I'm talking you, the truth of you, who you really are, the things you like about yourself, the things you dislike, the power that you